Welcome to the Donan Show, our very first episode of 2023. Feels weird saying that, right? That's crazy. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for watching in 2022. Last year was a crazy ride. I decided to get into this content creation game and kind of go all out in it. So thanks for the feedback. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for all the questions. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing our Q&A session. Okay, I get a lot of questions that come up from my videos, and I think a lot of these questions are worth answering in public because it's questions that a lot of people might have. So it's going to be very, very helpful. But before we get into that, I want to introduce my partner, Matthew Finklestein. Thanks for being here again, man. You become like a staple to the show now.
Third time now.
Yeah.
Was not aware of this, but podcasting is now part of my life.
That's it. That's it. It's in the job description now.
It is now. It is part of the job description.
How are your holidays, man?
It was great. Spent a lot of time with family. Went out, dinners a lot, lunches, just got together with different family members, had a lot of wine, a lot of cappuccinos. So it was good. Enjoyed my time, but most importantly, spent a lot of time with family, which was great. So we don't get that time, throughout the year. So it was good to just be with family. Yeah, that's awesome. For myself, I did a lot of the same, relaxing with family, friends, and kind of plan for the new year. For me, every time it's a holiday, it's a little bit of both. A lot of family time, a lot of eating, relaxing, but always my mind is, going into gears, thinking of what's next. And you might have gotten an occasional text here and there on your time off, and that's how it is. But it's all good. And we have a lot of energy. We have a lot of positive things that are going to be happening in 2023. And I wish everyone watching a fantastic year ahead. I know there's going to be challenges like every single year, but if we're strong, if we're persistent, and if we're positive, we're going to be able to overcome everything. But enough of the motivational speech. There's questions. There's a lot of questions. I want to try to get to all of them because I talk a lot. So why don't we just jump right into it? Yeah. Man? And like you said, we're going to do this monthly. So, just keep throwing questions out at us. If I don't get through all of them, we'll get them on to the next one.
Absolutely.
First question is a long one. So I'm just going to read it off. Just bear with me.
All right.
The interest rate now is very different from 5 years ago. If I would like to pay the mortgage off in the next 20 years, I need to increase my payment. That means the rent is just not enough to cover everything. I've considered selling it and moving on to another investment, but the price of the property will increase in time, but it's holding too much cash and it creates zero to negative cash flow. What are your thoughts?
Okay, yeah, that's a loaded question. All right. So what this person's saying is that they took a variable rate mortgage. All right. Probably a fixed payment variable rate mortgage. So what's going to happen now around this time of the year, you're going to start getting your mortgage statement. And if you have one of those variable mortgages with a fixed payment, you might have hit your tipping point or you might have not. But what's happened is the amortization. So the time that it takes for you to pay the mortgage has dramatically increased. Why? Because the interest rate has gone up, but your payments stay the same. So instead of taking 30 years to pay the home, it can be taking 40, 50. I've seen even 60 years. Okay. So I think that's what this person's referring to. So the solution that he or she has is to increase the payment. Right. To pay more into it so you're paying off the mortgage faster. And obviously when you do that, your payment increases and you're getting negative cash flow on the property and or just breaking even. The advice that I can give, my thoughts on it are this. So first of all, yes, you can do that. You can accelerate the mortgage. You can pay more into it and pay it off faster, but you don't have to. Nobody's forcing you to do that, right? If you are on a variable mortgage, you can always gamble and speculation as the interest rates for variable will come down somewhere in the next 12 to 18 months. So it's not going to be like this forever, right? Or you can potentially refinance and go on a fixed rate, which is you start amortizing that over 30 years. So there's a lot of options that you can do before you sell the house. Secondly, you can do what that person wants to do, sell the house. But in the long run, you really have to think that the property value will continue to appreciate. So even if you're paying a little bit into it monthly, even if you're losing money on cash flow on a monthly basis, I still think real estate investment is the best way to go because you're already in that property. When you sell, you have to pay commission, you have to pay mortgage penalty. When you break it, you have to reinvest that money somewhere else. And more than likely, you're just going to buy another house. Because the other option is just putting it in the bank at a really low rate. So I think overall, the best thing, if you can, that's my advice always, hold on to it, ride the wave. The interest rates are fluctuating, they're up or down. But remember, you didn't buy a property just because the interest rates were low. You bought it as an investment vehicle, and you shouldn't lose focus on that just because the waters are a little bit turbulent right now.
Perfect. That leads into actually the next question.
Okay.
We're just talking about renewals. So someone's asking about their current mortgage. It's up for renewal in May, and they have a little over a year left on their term. They're paying a low fixed rate, which is great.
Yeah, that's good.
That being said, they have a lot of equity in their house, and they're thinking it's a good time to invest. So,
I agree.
and they're looking at what are their options right now. So basically, they've got a lot amount of equity. What are your options?
This is a very common question right now because I think a lot of people are realizing that we're kind of at the bottom as far as pricing goes, or at least it seems. And it's a good time to buy because it's going to bounce back up and you can build a lot of equity in a short period of time. That being said, most people's purchasing power happens to be in their current property, tied up in equity. And a lot of people have really, really amazing rates that they don't want to break. So how do you pull that equity out? I guess the first thing I can tell you is actually that specific question should be asked to your banker, to your mortgage broker, financial advisor, somebody who does your mortgages for you. I think they'll have a better picture of your situation, generally speaking. Now, if you have a long term, in this case, I think this person's at May.
Yeah.
So they have over 12 months remaining on their current balance. They have to do the math. They have two options. The two options whenever you're pulling equity is you're either refinancing or you're pulling a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. In this case, if you have a very good first mortgage, which happens to be the case for this particular person, I think the best option, if available, would be to get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. That allows you to tap into the equity that's in the home at a lower, well, not lower rate, but pretty much at the market rate right now. HELOCs are usually prime plus 0.5 at the moment, but it allows you to keep the fixed portion low for the time being, for the next 12 months, 18 months, and you can still access the equity. I think based on a very surface level analysis of the question, that would probably be the best of both worlds. But you should also run your numbers to see what a refinance would look like, or even a second mortgage that might work as well. But you really have to look at the fact that should I refinance now or should I keep that, first mortgage fixed for the time being?
Right. Next question's similar. This person's in a condo. They bought it 4 years ago, so the mortgage is coming up in about a year. They need more space. They need a bigger place. So they're wondering, is now the right time to move into something bigger? Or should they maybe wait it out a bit, get a 1 year, 2 year mortgage, or move into the bigger place now?
Generally speaking, we deal with a lot of upsizers. I think that's a big portion of our clientele. And I always tell them this: upsizing is very need-based. So it sounds to me that these people really need to move, or they want to move, right? They might, and they're just wondering, well, am I in a position to do so financially or not? This answer is so repetitive. I've said it so many times. So when you are upsizing, you first of all have to look at how much equity you have in your current home. So I'm assuming you're going to be selling your house right now, right? So you need to know exactly how much money your home is worth, how much you can sell it for. Then based on that, you're going to use that as a down payment, and you're going to see how much you're qualifying for with that down payment for a house like the one you want to buy. Okay, then you're going to get that mortgage payment, and then you're going to see what the difference is between that big house that you want and what you're paying now. If you can afford to do so, I really think, why wouldn't you? Right? Now, looking at it mathematically, yes, the market is down, so you are going to sell your property for a little bit lower. But hypothetically, you're buying that bigger property at a discount as well. So what I look at is the gap, the difference between what you sell and what you buy. And more than likely, based on the market conditions right now, that gap is actually less now than it is when the market heats up, because bigger houses tend to appreciate more in value. So the distance is different. So that person, upsizers right now, are seeing an opportunity because the gap is smaller. They can get into that bigger property before the market picks back up. But they have to be very, very careful that they can actually afford to do so. So I think most importantly is always check your budget, do your numbers properly. If you can afford to do so without stretching yourself, go for it. It's a good time to do it for sure. But if you're going to be, starving, skipping meals, not paying other bills in order for you to do it, then it doesn't make financial sense. It's better for you to stay put.
At the end of the day, you just have to balance that need.
Correct.
How desperate are you to fulfill that need versus the cost of it? So you really have to balance those two. If the cost is going to put you in a difficult situation, more difficult than if you were to stay with the smaller place, then now is not the right time. But if you can afford it and you need it, then go for it.
And we always talk about it. Like I hear you talking to your clients, and it's not a fact if you can qualify. Just because you qualify for something doesn't mean that you should do it.
Yeah, no, qualifying
Right?
and whether or not you should or not are different.
Qualifying is an indication the bank will lend you money, and the bank thinks that you should be fine.
Yeah.
But everyone has different lifestyles. Like I have families, clients that eat out every single night. That adds in. The bank's not taking that into consideration when they qualify, right? They just see your income, they see your fixed expenses, and that's where they qualify you based on. So a lot of the things that I've always done for clients, but I'm doing it even more closely now with the interest rate situation, is I always do a budget for them. As elementary as it sounds, I might not do it for them because sometimes they don't want to disclose all their finances to me, and that's fine. It's better. But I always give them that Excel form for them to fill out, and they can see where all their money's going. And they can really see, hey, can I afford this extra $1,000 payment a month?
Yep.
$2,000. Because when you tell somebody, this happens all the time, I say, you know what, for you to upsize or for you to invest, it's only $500 more a month, or only $700. And everyone's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like we can do that. But then they run the budget. There's no money.
Yeah, it's got to come
from somewhere. They're like breaking even right now, so it's got to come from somewhere. So again, it's not whether you can qualify; it's whether you can afford to do so comfortably. And if you have to make changes to do that upsize, then what changes can you make in order to allocate that money towards a new house?
Perfect. All right, next question is: I just received a sizable inheritance. The idea is to put a lump sum into their current home, and that'll help them pay off their mortgage. They'll be mortgage free in about 5 years or so. However, their partner thinks they should invest the money. What do you suggest?
Well, it seems to me, Matthew, that they have different objectives as far as what they want to achieve. Like, you have the dream of being mortgage free, and a lot of my clients have that. And a lot of people, there's no right or wrong answer. It's a matter of opinion. A lot of people want to be mortgage free, so they're going to dump as much money as they can into their current property, and they're going to have it all paid off. They're not going to worry about investing or diversifying. Their partner seems to be thinking otherwise. They think, well, why don't we grab this money and buy a second property? Now, as an investor myself, I would do what the partner says. As long as I can afford it, I can qualify, and I'm prepared to become an investor and become a landlord, I would take that money and buy another property. Because when you have one property, right, you have all that equity, and it's paid off. You have all that equity just stuck in there. It's not working. When you have multiple properties, you're using the principle of leverage, and you have that same amount of money working in different places and growing more and more and more. Just think about it this way. If you would have bought your house 20 years ago, it would have doubled, tripled in price by now. But if you would have bought 2, imagine that. Or if you would have bought 3.
Yep.
So if you're ambitious, it's definitely better for you to invest that lump sum into getting more properties if it fits your lifestyle. But if you want peace and security and never have to worry about a payment ever again, then just pay the mortgage off. There's really no right and wrong. It just depends on the objectives.
So what are the risks of diversifying it?
Main risk is this. Like I pitch a lot of real estate investing. A lot of our clients, that's what they do. But not everyone's prepared to be a landlord. Okay, number one. So the easiest or the most common way to invest is to become a landlord, to buy a rental property. You buy a condo, you buy a bungalow, and you rent it out. Right? That comes with responsibilities and risks associated with it. You can have a bad tenant. You can have a tenant that doesn't pay you. You can have what the previous questions, rates go up, so the payment pushes up and I'm losing money every single month. So there's risks that are associated with it. Now, the objective of investing in this is because in the long term, property doubles in value every 10 years. So yes, you might have a little bit of an issue, a calculated risk, but you're going to make more money in the long run with that investment. It's highly leveraged. So that's the advantage of it. But there's risks, as I mentioned, there's things that can go wrong, and not everyone's prepared for it. Right? If you're buying a pre-construction condo, there's risk associated with that. If you're buying a student house, and the risk associated with that. So there are risks as with any investment. And there's some people that are very risk adverse. They're fine with having the house that their primary residence. They're fine having that and living there forever. And they don't want to take any other risks. So for those people, real estate investment or any investment, it's not for them. Yeah. And that's fine.
All right, perfect. We got another long question here. I have been stuck with a home I bought back in February of 2022. So that was like the peak of the market.
Yeah.
It was originally meant to be a flip, but given the market drop, I could not sell it for a profit. I have a tenant that is now leaving and I am losing money each month. Plus, I am in debt because I used a line of credit for the renovations. If I sell now, I will lose money, but at least I won't be drained each month making payments. So what's your advice?
It's pretty similar to the first question. I think in general, my advice is if you can hold on to the property, right? Numbers don't lie. If we look briefly at how the market ended in 2022, right? Number of sales were down across the board about 50%. So there's half of the transactions being done. Interest rates are higher, so affordability is less.
Right.
Common pricing goes down. However, if you look at the last months from September till December, there has been no drop in price. So pretty much we can say that we've bottomed out. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the next months, but if things continue, there's going to be no increase and there's going to be no decrease. It's pretty much
at
flat.
the moment we've plateaued. Is it going to drop again, or is it going to go back up?
Correct. So hypothetically, it could drop in the short term. Why not? But if somebody's hold for a property for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, almost with certainty, they're going to make a lot more money than what they're making right now. They're going to be able to pay down their mortgage more, so they're going to create more equity. So in my opinion is don't sell the property unless you're planning to get into the market with something else. Never exit the market, stay in the market, right? So I think it's better if you can hold on to it, keep it, it's going to go back up, and you have a nice investment property. Now, that being said, in this particular scenario, this person seems to be leveraged to the T. They probably owe money to line of credit cards for the renovations.
Like.
If you can't hold on to it, then you have to sell. There's no other option, right? Ideally, as an investor, I see things in a long term. So I think, like, why sell now? Wait 5 years so you're going to get more money out of it. But it's not practical for everyone. At the end of the day, if you can't afford it, if you're going into debt, you can't make your payments, you're skipping payments on credit cards, like, it's just really affecting, you just get rid of it. What else are you going to do? There's no option.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's an investment and there is risk.
Yeah. Hold on to it if you can.
Hold if you can, yeah.
And if you can't, then sell. And that's the thing with flipping. Flipping is a very successful business. First of all, if you know what you're doing, like if you're a renovator yourself or you have a good team of people that will help you do the renovations, but it's also relies a lot on the market. Because our market is strong, you're usually not finding properties at a huge, huge discount. You're actually banking on buying a property, let's say in December, and the market's so hot that by February, March, it's already appreciated itself. Plus the renovations that you're doing, it's going to make it really nice and you're going to be able to sell it. So flipping is a very, very risky business. And whenever you're buying a flip, and I have clients that flip all the time, and we're always wondering, is this the last one for the season? Because you can always get stuck with it. So you have to have a contingency plan for every property that you're flipping.
Exactly.
Because this is very common. I have guys who were flipping in the peak of the market, and we're always wondering, is this going to be the last one? And it happened to be the last one, but they're fine. They had a plan B for that property. They're going to hold on to it. They're going to sell it again in a couple of years. They're going to make really good money with it. But there has to be that plan B whenever you're flipping properties. Otherwise, you can get in a lot of trouble.
So if somebody has to sell right now, they've determined they got to sell a property, when's the best time?
Well, if you have to sell it now, right? You know, in our listings, right, the market is lower. So whenever I'm saying the market, don't exit the market, is because I feel it's going to bounce back up and you're leaving money on the table. You should always stay within your investments. But the market itself is not bad. You know, you're coming down 50%, but you had a record year in 2021, record year, right? 2022 was not bad. Right. Houses all of our listings have sold. If they're priced correctly, they will sell. They're not selling at a steep discount. People are not buying it for $500,000 under asking. Like everything is pretty leveled if it's priced correctly. So I think there's no point in really waiting for it to get better. If you need to sell within the next 2-3 months, stop trying to time the market. Just put it on the market right now. At the time of this recording, I think the market's pretty stable. If you price it right, if it presents well, it's going to sell. So there's no need to really be trying to time it. If you really determine that you need to exit, just do it right away. It's not a bad market.
All right. And what are your thoughts on joint venture? Someone's thinking about buying a rental or pre-construction condo with their brother-in-law.
Joint venture. So personally, myself, I haven't done any joint ventures yet. Right. Joint ventures are good because there's two sides. Right. For example, I might have the money, but I already have properties. I can't qualify for another mortgage. And you only have a couple properties. So we'll use your name and we'll use my money. And we both get something out of it because we're buying the property jointly. However, the risk associated with it is that, first of all, the relationship might dissolve. You never know in life. Like you never really know. So you might not be seeing eye to eye. You might want to get rid of the property today. I might want to wait for 10 years, which would probably be the case. And we're not seeing eye to eye. So that creates problems in a relationship, like capital, right? That's the main thing is if you're doing a joint venture, you really have to partner with somebody that, first of all, brings something to the table. There's no point in doing it with just anybody. There needs to be a clear division of who brings what. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's income, but who's going to do what? That's number one. And number two, you need to really have a plan, an exit plan ready. When are you going to get rid of it? When are you going to refinance? Who's going to keep the property? Is it going to be a 10-year plan, 20-year plan, 5-year, 1 year? You need to be on the same page. And what happens with a lot of joint ventures, and this is very common with younger guys, and I see it, is that you have two single guys that go into a joint venture. They invest all their money into it, right? One of them finds a fiance. Now he wants to pull his money out because he wants to buy his primary residency. Well, the other guy doesn't want to sell, and he doesn't have the means to refinance and buy him out. So that starts having a problem with their relationship. So it's not as clear cut. In theory, it's great because you're using your resources to get into the market, which is fantastic. But I always advise the people who are doing it to be extra diligent on the partnership aspect of it, because I've seen it go sour many times, many times.
I have a lot of friends who have bought pre-construction and have made tons of money and think it's a great tons of money.
I don't want to make that.
There you go.
That's good.
But how? Am I missing something? So
Well,
I love
maybe
the
you
way
are.
this
I don't
question's the way this question's written.
Okay.
The prices are insanely high compared to resale. Can you shed some light into this?
Yeah, I can actually. So first of all, if you're buying pre-construction, you need to know that you're buying a brand new product.
Right.
And price per square foot is going to be higher.
Right. I think that's the first thing really is that you're buying a car and something in the future. If you compare it to a car, if you're buying a brand new car, it's going to be more expensive than a used car.
So that's number one. So price per square foot, it's much higher, much higher. Okay. So that's you cannot argue with that, right? Now, if you have cash sitting in the bank and you're able to close on a property today, are you better off buying a resale condo that has just been built 6 months ago? More than likely, yes. Depends on the location. You're going to get a better deal, price per square foot, than if you go to the builder. The reason why her friends or his friends made so much money, it's because they probably got in at the very, very first axis. So they probably, hypothetically, they bought a project today in 2023 that was not completed till 2028 or 2029.
Right.
So you have 6 years. They've had 5 years for it to appreciate.
Appreciation, yep.
And even if the market does this, in general, it tends to go up. So they made all that money because they put a deposit today, but it was built out 6 years from now. So they have all that insulated growth, forced appreciation.
Right. But
that's why it happened.
But also they're not making the mortgage payments.
Correct.
Right.
And the reason why it's appealing to some, and to a lot of people, is because they can spread out their deposit. So let's say the 20% doesn't have to be paid right away, which is the case if you were to buy a rental property. It's spread out in a year, 2, 3, 4 years, depends on the builder. Okay. And you don't have to qualify for a mortgage. You don't have to become a landlord right away. So essentially you're dumping in 20% spread out and you're watching all that growth happens. So that's why it's an appealing investment for some. It's a very passive investment. It makes a lot of sense for some, but not for everyone. If you're really price sensitive, then you're better off going resale. But if you look at it from the perspective like, hey, yeah, I am overpaying right now, because you are, as far as square footage goes, you're definitely overpaying. But overpaying right now, but I'm getting all these benefits of not having to qualify for a mortgage, not having to become a landlord right away, not having to make payments, not having to worry about it. And in the long term, because there's enough long-term window, it's going to go up, then it's a right move for you.
Perfect. So in a few answers, you've talked about tenants and the risk of tenants. So this next question is specific about that. Somebody wants to invest in real estate. They want to become a landlord, and their word here is they hear nightmare stories about tenants and the issues associated with them. Is it worth it?
So my answer, first of all, is it worth it? Yes. Any business has risks associated with it. You mitigate the risks by being selective when you're choosing your tenants. That's first of all, that's the best way to do it. And the rewards in the long term are astronomical compared to what you can lose. So definitely it's worth it. That's why I do it, and that's why I recommend people to do it. Now, is it for everyone? No, we spoke about it. There are immediate risks. You can potentially buy this property, can sell you this property today, and it's a beautiful location, you've gotten a great price on it, and you make the mistake, or by chance you get the wrong tenant. And you're stuck with that tenant for a period of 6 months of not paying, and you go through the eviction problems. That's a headache for you.
Right.
Doesn't take away from the fact that it was a good purchase, because this property in 10 years is going to double in price. So it depends what you're willing to stomach. Now, one thing regarding tenants is that I'd say 95, maybe 99% of them are really, really good, and you'll have no issue, right? We hear the bad stories, and rightfully so. We're warned with the bad stories. Rightfully so. You're going to hear the bad, and you're going to hear the horrible, and you're going to hear the nightmares. So yes, there is that risk. The majority of landlords are happy. They're not having a great deal of issues with it. So do I think it's a good investment? Do I think it makes sense? Yes. Are there risks? Could you go wrong and really get a headache? Absolutely as well. As long as you're prepared for the risks of what could happen, and you take action, and you're very, very diligent in your screening process, you should be okay. And the reward should outweigh the risk.
All right, so this is the last question. It's another specific one. It's a long question, so I'm going to read the whole thing out here.
Well, and I encourage the long questions. By no means,
it's detailed.
Good.
It's
good.
great. It's a very specific one. So
Okay.
I'm 32 years old. We bought our house 6 years ago. Currently, we have about $80,000 saved up, and they want to buy an investment. This would be something long-term for our children or to sell when they go to university and fund their schooling.
Okay.
We can't afford negative cash flow. Where could we invest and buy something with this amount?
That's very specific, and this person's
I told
very
you, it's
diligent.
very specific. They know what they want.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations on saving the $80,000.
Yeah.
It's not easy, so good for you and coming up with an investment plan. Okay, so this is a very common question. Everyone thinks that you can only invest in the GTA. You can only buy Toronto. You can only buy pre-construction. But the thing is this: cash flow and location sometimes are balancing each other.
Right.
Okay. So in a really top neighborhood in Toronto, it's almost impossible for you to get that positive cash flow to break even.
Right.
So if you're buying a top condo downtown Toronto, you're going to be putting money out of pocket every single month. That's just the way it is. Okay. Now, there are a lot of options for people that want to have a more passive investment. They don't want to be putting money out of pocket. And there's really, really good opportunities. Ontario, we are in the province of Ontario, which has massive growth, massive immigration. So if I were them, and I've personally done this myself, I'd be looking at properties perhaps in Sudbury, Sault Ste. Marie, Windsor, where you can still pick up detached or at least single family residences, condos in around that $300,000-$400,000 mark, which would match well with the down payment that you have saved up, which is about $80,000. And they should at least pay for themselves because the rental markets are very, very good. And that's even taking into consideration the current interest rates. So my advice for anybody, and there's a lot of people that have this type of scenario, is to really look outside of the GTA. Look outside of GTA for cities that have good growth, that have an affordable real estate market, and that have a good rental market. Those are the three key things that you take into consideration. And don't be afraid to invest. I've done it personally. I've invested in different parts of Ontario, and I'm very, very happy with it. And I was in a similar situation. I wanted to have something that wouldn't be cash flow negative for me. So that's my advice. And I think a lot more people should start looking into that this year, because everyone thinks that, hey, I have to invest into Toronto. I need $200,000 down payment to get in. And it's hard. It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. So a lot of great questions this time.
A lot of great questions. Yeah. They were specific. That's good.
Yeah, some really specific ones, which is great. Because I'm sure there's people out there that have similar thoughts. Yeah. And it's really good information.
It's really good information. And I encourage, for me, I do this content for you guys. I like to educate. I like for you guys to see who I am, get a feel of the person behind the pictures. So that's why I do a lot of video. But most than anything is to educate and to inform. And questions are key. Questions are what keeps our content going. If you guys don't ask anything, then I don't know what to talk about. So this is really important. And no question is silly. I know a lot of people are new to the country. A lot of people, it's their very first time. Or a lot of young people, their parents bought like 30, 40 years ago. It's totally different now. It's okay. Completely. Reach out. We're both really, really friendly. If I'm not available, Matthew will answer. We'll give the best advice coming forward. And the most important thing is, like, you're never going to have, and this is important because I hear this, you're never going to have a high sales pressure conversation with me. Nope. I'll answer. I'll give you advice. When you're ready, I'll be ready as well. If you want to choose me as your realtor, hey, God bless. That'd be fantastic if I can help. But if not, then don't feel compromised just because you reach out or ask a question. Matthew, thank you so much, man. Yeah, you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're good.
Yeah, it's number three.
Number three.
Apparently, we're doing this now every month.
Yeah, we're doing, I need somebody to read the questions. If I read it, it's not good. You have that touch. It's good.
There you go.
Thank you so much for watching. You have questions, again, follow, reach out, text, call, email. You know how to reach me.